Good evening, ladies and gentlemen out there in YouTube land. I am Deleted Scenes, human being, American, and YouTuber Ronan. I'd like to welcome you to tonight's episode of Live from Sparkwood in 21 as we take our deep dive into Lost Highway. This show chronicles the 1990s cult classic television series Twin Peaks. Its 25 years later legacy sequel series The Return, which appeared on Showtime in 2017. And now, the works of David Lynch. We've already covered Eraserhead, Elephant Man, Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me, uh, Wild at Heart, and Mulholland Drive, of course, and now Lost Highway. Last week we rewatched a film, and we definitely have some theories about what the heck it was all about. Because when it comes to the David Lynch films that I've seen, and granted there are a couple here and there that I haven't, and, this is the one that to me was the most perplexing. So I'm very curious to hear what my fellow panelists have to say tonight. All right. I do want to first say hello to everyone currently joining us on X. I can't see you, but I know that you're there. And I want to say hello to everyone tonight in the live chat. Channel member JPRPH1, friend of the channel Enigma Severus, and all right. My fellow panelists are waiting patiently backstage, the super fans, as I refer to them. All right. Something last call Pacelli Dark Side. I don't know.
Hello.
All right. Netters Network, she of the smoldering avatar.
Good evening.
And Flappy Apologist, Age Boomer.
Yeah, once they had asked Flappy, we're all going to have to eat bugs one day. And he was like, well, count me in. I eat bugs all the time. Absurd. How do you think he had to survive, man, when he couldn't be going to those fine dinners anymore? He was eating stuff off the ground like every other bird.
And like a lot of out of work actors.
Yes, I suppose so. That makes me depressed, actually. Okay.
I do want to say hello to a new name in the chat, Odd Haunts Films. Welcome to the show. Says I named
welcome.
my narrowboat home Lost Highway while its interior is inspired by Twin Peaks.
Cool.
On. Cool. Well, it's great to have you here. All right. Well, last week we did a rewatch of the film, and this was one that I know Boomer has been wanting to get to for quite some time.
Yes.
So, if it is okay with the rest of the panel, I kind of like to give Boomer the floor.
Absolutely.
Well, for the love of Mike, okay, let me think about this for a second. So, what do you want me to say? What the movie's about?
At least your interpretation of
your interpretation, sure.
All right. Okay. I don't want to be lazy and just say it's a dream narrative, but maybe there's dream logic in it. Okay. I came to a revelation just today, and I may be flat out wrong, but I think when we're watching the movie, we think it's the Bill Pullman story, the Fred story, right? We start out with that, and then we get into what's his name, Pete's story, correct? About Sargetti,
right?
And then we go back to Fred, correct?
Correct.
I do not think that when we get back to Fred at the end, that's a continuation of the first Fred story. I think that's a new story. I think it's a new scenario concocted out of whoever is head this is coming out of. Crickets. Okay,
No, I'm
Well,
following you. Go
you
ahead.
got to give us time to process this. Some of
okay.
this is pretty heady stuff, you know.
Let me go on. Since I'm here, I'll just get this out of the way. I know Netter said her thing was going to be real short. Maybe she agrees with Patricia Arquette here.
Okay.
Patricia Arquette, in being asked, she was asking for direction from David Lynch, and David, for her words, David didn't tell me whether Renee and Alice were two different people or versions of the same woman. He asked me what I thought. I decided that they were women through the eyes of a misogynist. So when Fred recreates himself in the second half as Pete, this young virile guy, Alice still isn't trustworthy. She seems to love him, but she works in, I'll use a different word, the adult entertainment industry. It's very
Yeah.
rare to look at this idea of how dangerous female sexuality is in the eyes of a guy like Fred slash Pete, especially in this poetic way. David wrote the script at the time of the O.J. Simpson trial, which he was obsessed with. So that's her thoughts on this. Um, mm,
Hmm.
this is assuming Fred and Pete are the same guy. Maybe they are.
What you're actually saying is that that's what Patricia Arquette is assuming.
Yes.
That's her
Yes.
interpretation. Okay.
Yes. Um. All right. I hate to bring up dreams, but I'll just do this.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes when I dream, I'm dreaming of myself. Other times when I'm dreaming, it's third person and I'm seeing somebody else, like an actor in a movie
Sure.
or like a reality show, basically doing a part. And I might even know that character's motivations, but that character isn't me. So that's sort of what I'm seeing here. Maybe with Pete, but maybe not. I'm just throwing things out there.
Mm-hmm.
But I I think it starts out. We have Fred. There is little minute suspicions that perhaps his wife, his woman of his dreams, is being unfaithful. Correct?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
And I don't think we know this for sure. And then, of course, there's a big reveal that, oh, he murdered his wife. Okay, or did he? And then, like, he's telling the police. It's like it's caught on video, and it's like, he's like, hey, tell me I didn't do this. Because I think sometimes in a dream, when we do something horrifying, we have ultimate regrets about, oh, how could I do such a thing? And it's like, it's both part wanting to get away with it and part, you know, um, not wanting to think we actually did it to begin with, right?
Right.
Okay. But let's see here, though. I'm trying to think. We get into the second part, which actually plays like a straightforward story in some respects. Anyway, any thoughts so far before I'm twisting in the wind here?
So I wanted to comment on what you were talking about in terms of the dream logic and the
I feel like that's a cop out, but I'm gonna roll
no
with it.
no 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 no
Okay.
no no. When you talk about the third person, so a
Yes.
kind of dissociative kind of understanding of the character within your dream.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Well, that makes
I
sense.
think
All right.
I think
Okay.
we're on to something here. Yeah.
Um, Pete, I think, is someone who's sort of. She did make a point though that the younger self is more, he seems to have more prowess than the other guy, and he's, all the women want him, but then he's getting suckered, and he's the victim rather than being the other way around. Again, I sometimes think that's putting too fine a point on it, but it still ends up badly for him because he's not getting his perfect ending. In fact, and then it just ends, and then we get Bill Pullman again, and I'm just trying to figure out. Uh, And then it turns into something completely different. Because I'm sorry, but I don't see how the third. This is why I'm thinking they're two different parts. I don't see how the third part goes along with the first part. But maybe I'm missing certain things because I feel like the headache is him having to reinvent a new scenario to get out of the prior scenario he's in, which is the first time we see this happen, he's being locked in a cell somewhere. And for all I know, the whole thing with him being the jazz musician, that came from somewhere else. And that was another reinvented scenario of him going somewhere else. I mean, if I'm thinking back to the movie Waking Life, how this guy keeps getting into new and new scenarios when he's in the dream world. And then, like, what's the worst thing that happens? The woman of your dreams, and she says, "You can't have me," blah, blah. And, you already murdered a couple people. How do I get out of this horrible situation I've gotten myself in? Because you're not even getting the girl at that point, or the girl is not trustworthy enough to have, or whatever. And then, you shift out, and now all of a sudden you're somebody else again. Maybe someone familiar, like the Fred character, but not exact. Because now Fred is now taking action by going after the guy who is cheating on his wife. Rather than attacking the wife, now you're attacking the man she was cheating on you with, which is a kind of a flip. Instead of going after a quote unquote defenseless woman, you're going after this supposed mob boss that we did see in the prior scenario.
Right.
Okay. Is anything I'm saying making any sense?
No, to me, it's making sense. Yes.
And then at the end, when he does that weird fade out, it's just going to go somewhere else. That's what I think is going to happen. And there's another scenario we didn't get to see, just like we probably had a scenario before the one where it started up at.
Bone in the chat is saying the fourth part is Independence Day.
You joke! You joke!
Would not be true?
He's the hero. His wife still gets killed, so he doesn't have to worry about. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm going back.
That's not wrong.
Well, here's another problem too, though. With Lynch, he's like, "Well, I'm going to let you do what you want." I'm like, "Well, then is Patricia Arquette now informing the movie without direction from the director?" So I can go ahead and roll my eyes at her yelling about misogyny stuff, but in a way, she's inputting into the movie itself by that. So,
well, I mean, if
I don't know,
now, did he say to her, interpret it in any way that you want, or is she just making?
He didn't tell her whether Renee and Alice were two different people or versions of the same woman. He asked me what I thought, and I decided they were. So when Fred recreates, okay, so maybe he didn't tell her that she could do whatever she wanted. Maybe you're right. Maybe she just decided when she didn't. I guess it was just follow the lines. That's probably what he was telling her to do.
So if I can interject here.
Yes.
Please. This is, and I've gotten this directly from a number of people that appeared in Twin Peaks. They've all basically said this, that when they would push David to explain something or whatever, he would always be very oblique about it. And he would always do exactly what Arquette is describing here. Well, what do you think is the motivation here? And to which he'd always respond, whatever they said, well, that's very interesting. Yes. Go with that.
I love that.
Usually that's what he would say. All right. He would give direction if they were really off base. But there's that from all the accounts that I've heard from people talking about him, again, in their first person interactions with David, I got two different possibilities. Okay. One was that, well, I guess actually three possibilities. Okay. One, that they were in sync with him, that they were thinking along the same lines, and he was saying, go with it. That's one possibility. The other possibility is, like I said, sometimes he would redirect them and say, try it more like this. So they were not on the same wavelength as he was, and he was redirecting them. The third possibility, and I know this is the case because in interviews, David Lynch has admitted this himself, sometimes he is open to someone else's input, including the actor playing the role. So sometimes he would, when he said, "That's very interesting," it was him deciding to go with that himself. So I'm just throwing that out there. That one of those three is the possibility here, and obviously it wasn't the redirecting her one. So either she was keyed into something and he was in agreement, or he was open to where she wanted to go with it and let her go with it.
I suppose. Well,
Again, this is always the allegory of the cave, right? We're all trying to put ourselves in the mind of David Lynch to try and parse out what's going on here. And you know, the metaphor of the cave, we're looking at shadows on the wall of the cave that infer to us what might be going on outside of the cave. That's what we're doing when we're trying to understand the works of David Lynch, I think. So in other words, I'm saying nothing we're saying is wrong. It's just possibilities.
So I have a question for everyone in the chat. You do not have to answer this if you're not comfortable with this question, but has anyone here ever murdered someone in a dream?
I have.
Yeah.
Well, not murder. It depends on what you mean by murdered. No, I've never murdered someone.
Does self-defense count?
Exactly my question. That's exactly what I was thinking.
Okay. Too. I have done, I want to say there are scenarios in dreams, much like we saw in this, where I believed that I'd done something terrible, like I had actually killed someone with enough through, whether it was through anger, like a rage thing, or I don't think it was anything premeditated where I was like planning it out over a long period of time, nothing like that. But like a rage thing, for instance, perhaps like, this didn't happen to me in a dream, but like in this scenario, we have a husband who maybe he learns about a wife's infidelity, and that's why she's in pieces on the floor or something like that. And my reaction in the dreams are, this is such a horrible scenario I've caught myself in. And there are usually two things I try to do: accept the guilt and just try to turn myself in. I think I've done that, or more often than not, probably fleeing. Or maybe you just want to escape that situation because it's so horrible. Now, sometimes when this happens, you wake up. Sometimes your dream morphs into something else where you are not the murderer. And this is sort of what I'm getting. This might have been why this movie hit me, because I think in dreams sometimes we can dream about doing horrible things, or maybe like we had a hit and run. Maybe someone darted out, or like maybe we weren't paying attention while driving or something, or we were talking to someone on the phone and we do something like that, or like a DUI sort of thing where we hit somebody. And that's another thing. We're like, well, do we turn ourselves in? And scenarios like that could happen in dreams where we did something that will be prosecuted, I think, till the full extent of the law. So we're afraid of that. But then at the same time, I'd like to think we're all halfway decent people, which wouldn't try to, kill people, or at least try not to get away with it if we were caught. You know what I mean? It's this weird thing. And I think that's what this reminds me here. And you're so horrified by the situation you're in that you just want to escape. Mm-hmm. And we get that in this when he morphs into Pete or whatever that is. And then we get it again at the end when he goes back to Fred. And I'm thinking, is he really going back to Fred, or is he going back to a version of Fred that didn't murder his wife? Because again, she's alive. She's just seeing Mr. Eddie, or at least a version of Mr. Eddie. I don't know if that, and that's what I'm sort of getting at here. Again, I'm probably reaching. I could be completely wrong, but this is just what I'm throwing out here. And I had thoughts last week. I kept trying to keep my mouth shut again about.
He had thoughts.
Well,
about the mystery man, quote unquote, played by Robert Blake.
Uh-huh.
My first interpretation when I saw him in this movie, the first thing that popped in my mind years ago was, that's death, okay, or that's something. Mm-hmm. Another interpretation is maybe the devil, or maybe the devil on your shoulder. That, or whether you're believing it's the actual devil speaking, you trying to get you to do bad things, or the proverbial something dark from your subconscious that, nudges you in the direction of doing the wrong thing. Do you understand?
Mm-hmm,
Like this weird inner voice. You know what I'm
so
saying? And
more
that's,
like a conscience than the
or
devil
a reverse
incarnate, so to
conscience.
speak. Okay.
That's what I'm
Yeah, yeah,
saying.
yeah.
Like the thing that fights against your conscience, whether you think that's like the literal devil or something deep in your own subconscious. I don't know if this. I'm
So
not going to
from a
try to get into Jung with the
psychoanalysis,
shadow or whatever, but I'm just
I
saying,
was
yeah,
well, I wasn't even going to go there. I
yeah,
was going to
yeah.
go much more Freudian with the id.
The id, yeah, okay, the id, sure. There you go. Maybe it's the id. Yes.
And welcome, Charlotte Nightstar, the werewolf. Good to see you. Good to
Indeed.
see you.
But he often says, "I'm there at your house. I'm there." It's because he's a part of him. That's what I'm seeing.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so that's what I was finally got after all this time. Like he's a part of him. This is the side of yourself you don't want to admit is there when you're saying you got some pretty effed up friends. Well, it's you. You're
Yeah.
complaining about. You're seeing a part of yourself that you don't like seeing reflected back at you, and that's sort of what I got from there. And that's why he's in the house. That's why he like all the trip. I mean, granted, I think they both got caught on video in the bed, but I'm almost thinking, this is he could be the one videotaping himself and sending it to himself without even realize, without I don't know, like
Yeah.
anyway, there you go.
So
But
it's like
those are just some
Not
things I'm throwing out there.
so your theory on him is the call is coming from inside the house, basically.
I don't. It's probably too easy because, like I said, I believe that the third videotape is him and his wife. Of course, that could be him in the dream exonerating himself of doing such a thing too. Oh, it can't be me because I got my cell phone camera, so it's somebody else. Because it's weird because like the alarms kept tripping. That's why we turned it off. Well, who's tripping those alarms? Maybe it's you.
exactly.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. And it reminds me of a Dr. Phil episode once. I mean, if it was just pictures recording of his wife, that this guy, in a way, who was stalking his own wife. Like he acted like a stalker, but it was to his own wife. Like he would film her while she slept, and he would like turn the heat up so she would like take the blanket off. And
I can
this guy was
understand.
a nut job, certifiable, and he was like always thinking she was talking to other guys and doing this and that, and it's like she was normal. This guy wasn't, and Dr. Phil was. And I think on most shows he said he usually tried to take both sides matter into a thing. Do you understand? I'll look at
Sure.
I'll try to see things both sides. But this guy just no, you are completely out of line here.
Yeah.
It's like yeah. So I don't know again, but it's video is creepy, and the fact is we have videos on all our phones now too that makes it worse. Videotape
True.
can be actually very invasive, if you think about it. But yeah, okay.
No. Yeah.
I'm sure I got other stuff rattling around in there, but nothing's coming to the surface. But do you want to? Should I go to some? Should we go to somewhere else? Someone else for the
Uh,
time being?
I do want to say hello to some people who have joined
Sure.
us
Yeah.
here in the chat. Uh, let's see. Usarn G has become a new YouTube member. I don't know which channel, but welcome again to Usarn G. Bone has joined us. Old Hans Film says, when I watch Lost Highway, I am always reminded of a line from a David Mamet story. Only second chance I know is the chance to make the same mistake twice, which
Yeah.
he later on says is from State and Maine, which I actually brought up the other night because I was on a stream where we were watching a movie that's kind of similar to the Alan Alda film Sweet Liberty, which is kind of the PG version of State and Maine, but yeah, I do remember that film. I remember that being a little different for Mammoth from State and Maine, as he says yes. Nate says maybe he was next level schizophrenic when the other personality takes over physically and becomes someone different. Okay. Welcome to Sergeant Giratina.
It's a weird visual when his head's rolling back and forth and like all that.
It's
all
very.
It's pretty freaky. Yeah.
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 So I do sort of get that from that. Yeah. But,
yeah. Jacob's Ladder was the first time I remember seeing that effect being done.
Mm.
Hello to Emoji Queen Lady Mist. Mel NYC Reviews. This is Lost Highway was a wonderfully deep, moody movie. Okay. And yeah, Troy, State and Maine is an original screenplay and not based on one of his books.
Yeah, see,
Yeah.
I completely miss anything that Mamet did that was just a screenplay. I've missed it,
Mm-hmm.
so I need to get caught up. I've seen a lot of his stage plays
Mm-hmm.
here in Chicago,
Mm.
Oh yeah.
but didn't realize he was doing and I thought like because I know that a lot of his plays were turned into movies, like American Buffalo and a bunch of others, and so I've
Mm-hmm.
checked those out. But I never thought to look and see, oh, has he done any movies that weren't originally plays?
Oh
So
yeah.
yeah.
State and Maine is one of them. Spartan with Val Kilmer that I'm a big fan of. He did that as well. Um, uh, Homicide with Joe Montana, but I don't remember if that was a play first or not. It might have been. Um, what was that other one? There's this movie Red Belt that has to do with a karate tournament. I never saw the whole thing. Um,
Interesting.
there's that. I know he was the showrunner on Unit, which was a CBS series that ran for like I think 3 seasons. That's worth seeing. So yeah, he has done a number of projects that were outside of his plays, and I know uh, there is an adaptation of a film adaptation of one of his plays that's out right now. So
Mhm.
that's one I'm looking forward to seeing. All right. Mel says that soundtrack is fire. I still find
Yes, it is.
myself playing "The Brain I'm Deranged" by David Bowie. Living in the
It's a good one.
USA 2025 song is taking on a whole new meaning. Oh yeah, definitely has. It's been an interesting last few weeks for sure. Everyone says, I believe so. Yes, slightly different for Mammoth, a bit out of his comfort zone, but I think it's a charming offbeat comedy. Yeah, I like it. It's very funny. And basically is a kick in the nuts to Hollywood, which needs some. Enigma says, I've had a dream where I was in a movie. Along came a spider, and I was alerting people to who the kidnapper was. The trouble with that film is that you find out that there are actually kind of multiple people involved, so it's not just
Mm.
any one guy. Um,
Oh, oh, yes.
yeah,
I remember that movie.
yeah.
Monica Potter. What happened to Monica Potter? She kind of vanished.
I don't know. I liked her.
Yeah.
She kind of disappeared on us. Um, Nate, I'm the youngest of 13 children, only 3 sisters in the dream world. I am a serial killer. Ugh. Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
my
here's the
dad was
deal.
number 13 of 13 kids.
Mm.
I mean, that's the weird thing about dreams, though. I'm wondering. Troy made a mention of the id a while ago. Is the dream world where we're not safe, where we don't have control over the id always? Think about that. Like in real
Well,
life, yeah.
the idea is that the id and the superego the id and the ego um are always clashing, and the superego is trying to keep a balance.
Hmm. All right.
Bones says, yes, in the dream I was in the Old West, like an old cowboy movie, and I shot someone. As one does. It's the Old West. Charlotte says, I think the mystery man. I think it was the form of the blonde version of the dark haired twin who was Fred's wife. Yeah, but is she twins, though? Because I get the idea by the end of the movie, and this is why I think Boomer's heading in the right direction, is
Hmm.
let me put it this way, is I yeah, just easily, just to narrow it down, I think Boomer's on the right track. I I I think Alice is that reality, so to speak. Um,
Hmm.
well, here's the thing: the ending of the film, and Boomer.
Yes.
Stop me if you think I'm off base here, please.
Mm-hmm.
All right, the end of the movie, the police are chasing him.
Yes.
What if from the time he's being interrogated on is just part of a quote unquote a dream reality from there on? Like, all right, like in Mulholland Drive, right? We know that there are cops investigating the case. You know, Robert Forster and Brent Briscoe. We know they're there.
Yeah.
Those are the cops who we're introduced to. My theory of that film is they are the ones at the door at the end. She's caught. Boom.
Okay. So you're
Now,
saying that the first part would not necessarily be the dream, or at least not an invented scenario in the mind of Fred.
correct.
That could all be happening, possibly, but we're missing bits and pieces here. That's part of the problem,
Yeah,
even in
that's
that first scenario.
yeah,
Like, we don't actually see him killing his wife, or at least what leads up to it. We just see clips of a video of him over, and it's like, oh, no, and then suddenly the police show up. That's what's throwing me off, but that's
That's
why
it.
I,
Well,
mhm.
I don't know if you guys saw Nicholas Evers's thing. If you did, it's like I didn't hear you read it. He says, I think the key quote from Fred is, I like to remember things my
well,
own way, how
Yeah, I've
I
got that
That's
in my
remember.
very
notes.
important. That's actually very important.
Yeah,
You're right.
not
I should have
necessarily how they happen. So when we watch, we are piecing together how Fred wants to remember. And with that said, my quote of the night is, what the heck did I watch?
Is that your interpretation of the movie, Netter? What the heck did I watch?
That's
Yeah.
the whole gist of it. Yeah.
In fact, I
Okay.
just dropped my member 12 months member chat onto Deleted's thing.
There
Wow,
you
whole
go.
year. And my quote is, what the heck did I watch?
all
I
right.
don't. I remember. I remember Ro- Robert Lozier, right? Yeah,
Mhm.
beating up a man for tailgating him,
I think that's
uh,
brilliant.
and
That is
Patricia
absolutely just brilliant.
what? What I
I
just said?
think that whole scene is just brilliant.
Yes, yeah. That was the most key scene in the movie for me, and Patricia Arquette in various stages of undress too. I
Oh,
picked
yes.
that from that, and I remember weirdness with just Bill Pullman's head splitting in two.
Yeah.
But again, I think that's like sometimes we want to split in two, right? Or split and go into a different reality if things get really bad, right?
I think there is a natural tendency there, yes.
And in dreams, you can do that. Or maybe in psychosis, I don't know. So what the heck did I just watch? Like I said, it was what the guy in the film class said at the end. You got to be shitting, me. That's what he was saying. He's like, he did not. Uh,
All right. Now I want to go back through the chat here because there were a couple of points I wanted to bring up. And then I am going to, if it is okay with you, let me know in the
mhm.
chat, Enigma, if you would like me to read off the email that you sent me, which is the your theory behind what you think is going on in the film. All right. The chat jumped on me here. Give me a moment to catch up again here. Okay. Did that. We got through there. All right. Hold on. Okay, there are two parts to this, and I only read the one. Charlotte Stereo says, I think the mystery man is, I think was the form of the blonde woman of the dark haired twin who was Fred's wife. And she said, Like the blonde woman went to the cabin, and boom, there is the mystery man with the camera. Yeah. Old Haunt says Blake manages to lend a performance as menacing as Hopper's in Blue Velvet. No easy thing. Helped along, of course, by being a wife murderer. Well, okay. Yeah, well, that depends on what you think actually happened there. I don't think he actually personally pulled the trigger on her. I think he had it done, maybe. All right. Nothing says unease like Lynch shooting scenes in analog video.
Ah, good point.
Okay, and that's the quote that you brought up earlier. Okay. Bones says, "Shout out to Jacob's Ladder." Okay. Kane's knees up, Mother Brown scene in Sweet Liberty gets me every time. Yeah, that's a fun movie. Okay. Nate says, "I believe that the dream world is where your imagination, your fears, and logical mind coalesce." Okay. I believe it's all alternative realities, as Twin Peaks: The Return showed. Yeah. Stop jumping on me, chat. Jeez, how can I? All right.
I know, that's why I have to go like really slow when I'm trying to go through, because otherwise it's like you're stuck to scroll, all of a sudden, whoop, you're at the bottom.
Yeah. It's mental and in dreams and in different dimensions and terms. Okay. It's worth mentioning it's Fred that delivers the line, Dick Laurent is dead, to himself. If you listen, you can hear the police sirens in the background as he leaves the message. It goes full circle. Enigma says, "I can read it if I want." He doesn't mind. Okay. Nate says, "I think he's still in his cell." Like as if you think he's still in his cell and he's dreaming the rest of the film, perhaps. Okay.
But that's an odd cell.
It is.
It could exist. I'm not saying it's so beyond the realm of reality, but it just struck me as an odd cell. That's all. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. And hello to Gap Stargate. Been a while. Good to see you. All right. Well, let me look this up here very quick. All right. Here is Enigma's email. I will read it in its entirety. Enigma says, "The key phrase for me is towards the beginning of the movie when Bill Pullman as Fred and his wife Renee are speaking with the police in his bedroom. Renee tells the detectives that Fred does not like video cameras. Fred says, 'I like to remember things my own way.' The detective asks what he means by that, and Fred gives the key. 'How I remember them, not necessarily the way they happened.' For me, Fred did kill his wife, and Pete Dayton is a fictional person that Fred wishes he was. In order to explain my thinking, I need to share with you something that we all do as people. Do you ever have regrets about decisions you made when you were younger, and when you wished you could go back and fix those decisions and modify your identity to be someone that you wish you could have been? In my observation, Fred wishes that he were someone desirable because his wife did not desire him truly. Fred is sexually inconsistent, and Pete is the opposite. Fred has a less than admirable career as a musician, which does not come across as very masculine, whereas Pete is a car mechanic who can fix any car and is a desirable employee. What I believe is Fred never leaves his jail cell, but rather is a mixture of Fred's mental ideas as he awaits his death. It's almost like we are having an experience of Fred's thoughts into what he could have done differently in his life. Fred originally thinks they got the wrong man. They will see I didn't kill my wife. They will come here and they will say, this isn't the killer. This is someone else entirely, and they will let me go. Then we leave that idea alone, and Fred asks himself, where did it all go wrong? Fred will say, I never should have become a musician. I should have become something more desirable like a mechanic, or women would come to me desiring after me. Fred would have his high school girlfriend, whom we know was the girl that Fred never truly had the guts to ask on a date. And Fred would see this real woman where he worked. Fred would continue, and she would come seeking after me, and I would make the decision to seize the moment and take this woman out. We can see that Pete is much more hypothetical when we think of everything he does in his life. He is asked. He's asked after at the shop. The big time money man brings him on a ride and is given special privileges. Gorgeous women come seeking after him at his job. His girlfriend willingly comes out with him and to have sex in the back of the car. It is realistic, but putting everything together, we learned that he's more than what he is realistic. He says, I think Fred killed Andy the same night he was unable to perform for his wife. Fred has this memory of seeing Andy leave with Renee from the club while he is on stage. I believe that Renee is actually unaware that Andy is dead at that moment because she contacts the police the next day about someone filming them sleeping. Now, you might argue that Andy is alive and they go to the party after that memory, he says in quotes, that Fred had. But remember, Fred is remembering them the way he likes to remember them, not necessarily how they happened. I would argue that the film is not in chronological order. I agree there. So after the party, Fred asked, how do you know that asshole? And Renee said it was a long time ago, but it's clear she has seen him many times recently. The order I would subscribe to is Fred goes to play at the club and returns home. He really believes his wife is having an affair. Fred figures out it is Dick Laurent and kills him. The day after Fred kills Dick Laurent is the actual opening scene where he's having a cigarette and then hears on the intercom that Dick Laurent is dead. Then we have the tape surfacing. Fred is the one who is actually filming them sleeping. You may say, well, there are two on the bed on one of the clips, which is true, but we don't actually see Fred's head. We see another body there, so I would argue that it is a fake. When Fred has that small memory of seeing Andy take his wife Renee from the club, Fred most likely follows Andy to his home and kills him after his wife leaves. Then Andy returns home. I think he means to say Fred. Then Fred returns home and kills his own wife. Pete, Dayton, and Alice are the mixtures of dreams that Fred wishes were the way it happened, where he's actually a hero saving her from a life she didn't want, and she's the one who convinced him to do those things to save her. But in the end, it's him who did it, and he can, quote, never have her. Because it is actually him who did it because Renee sincerely enjoyed the death sex cult she was a part of. Those were his thoughts.
Actually, when he was filming, it could very well have been he was filming his wife with her lover, and that was the proof. Because when they had the videotape on the front step, I thought for sure when they watched it, it was going to be showing her infidelity.
So the careers were interesting. You mentioned about the more masculine thing being the mechanic versus a saxophone player, but it's not. I don't know if it's as see back when this was made. I don't know if being mechanic was as high status. I think being a young guy in his 20s and being a successful mechanic is something to be said. But then I guess an old washed up sax player, but he's good at playing the saxophone, so he's not washed up.
No.
We don't get much into his career, do we? We don't know. Is he a successful saxophone player? Is he middling?
I
I
kind of
just
got
don't
I
know.
kind of got the idea that he's not where he thinks he should be. I'll put it that way.
See, I couldn't get a read on it either way. That was my problem with this because he's playing well with that club, and the other band members seem to think he's doing a good job, at least from their reactions. So I don't. It was Harvey. At the same time, Pete is a very good mechanic. He actually has the respect of a very important man. you know.
Yeah.
Um, but because he can tune cars so well, so it's tricky with the careers as far as I go. I just don't know. It's because I get how in modern times, like being a mechanic is probably more respectful than being an artiste. Because I think that that's gone way down, especially with how the internet's changed so much of our lives these days. That it's I think it's harder to gain status as an artist than it used to be.
Hmm.
So I don't know. I mean, I guess like who is higher status relative to where they are in their lives? Is it Pete or is it Fred? That's an interesting point.
Yeah.
So I don't
Enigma
know.
makes a
Yeah.
point. Go ahead. Enigma makes a point here. He says, "But how does his wife see him, or how she feels he is? Kind of like a Will Smith thing, who's greatly successful, but his wife still doesn't see him that way."
I see. Yet the young mechanic
Yeah.
is having women throw themselves at him. Good point. Versus the Bill Pullman, whose own wife doesn't even seem all that. I mean, she's not mean, but she's also it's more like a pitying in a way, which in some ways
Yeah.
She
is
doesn't
worse
seem
than
interested.
disgust. What?
She just doesn't seem interested.
And we don't see any other women seem being interested in them either. But we don't see much of his life outside of the apartment. Not really.
Mhm.
He's at the party. Like I. Yeah.
And Hello to Big Al presents.
I do think that Pete is more desirable than Fred. You're right about that, though. I think at least that's for the appearance in this movie. Except, why is Pete more desirable than Fred? That's what I don't get. I mean, is it youth? Is it? I guess relative to where he is in life, he has he's already a successful mechanic, so maybe his his pastures can keep getting greener, whereas Fred is now kind of stuck where he
Yeah.
is. Maybe that's what it is, and that's why you know yeah, I don't know.
He says, and no one knows him at the party, right? Because he doesn't seem to know anybody there either, because his
He
reaction
knows
was
the
kind of
one
like,
guy with the
"Who the
mustache.
fuck are these weirdos?"
Yeah.
And yeah, so I mean, the only one who really approaches him in that scene is the mystery man, and so we're saying, well, I mean, we have people here so far in the chat who have been saying that, okay, the mystery man is a part of Fred, or he could be part of Renee. We don't know. I I don't know, because with me, and this is when I first saw the movie, I always thought that the movie was all about identity. How in this world of what at the time was social media starting to become a thing, where we were living in a world where the way I kind of saw it at the time is we were starting to become numbers instead of people.
Hmm.
And I kind of felt that we're kind of losing our identities a little bit. And that's, in my opinion, was kind of what the movie to me was about at the time.
Hmm.
It was about, to me, it was about loss of identity. And, but to me, what I couldn't figure out was who exactly was the mystery man. Because he seen, who is this guy who has this ability to be in two places at once? Why why is he stalking Fred and Renee, or apparently stalking Fred and Renee? He seems to be leading Fred to this showdown with Mr. Eddie, aka Dick Laurent, whoever, because of what has happened, with this, I'll say it, this snuff film. And I think that however that figures in is where, and remember, this is my theory at the time, this is where the mystery man and Dick Laurent, Mr. Eddie, that's where they, that's where the schism between them took place. That's the way I looked at it. Was that it was all about getting him to kill Robert Loggia, and that was the whole plot. And then I'm kind of thinking, okay, now that I've had this second viewing, and now that I am listening to everybody's theories, okay, I am more willing to believe now that the mystery man is some version of Fred, because he seems to appear to Fred, and it's almost like no one else sees him
Mhm.
until the showdown at the end with Robert Loggia. And even then, you could say, okay, the mystery man's not actually there. You could still say that's all Fred, because that's I think that's and it was at that moment he realized he fucked up. It's that you know I think he is like a dark passenger, so to speak, if I can quote Dexter. You know, I think that he is some part of him that's that is like that kind of evil angel on the shoulder saying, no, I can solve all of your problems. You just you know you get rid of the bitch who's cheating on you, and you can take out the guy that she's doing it with, and yeah, just come with me. I know how to do it. I can give you that ounce of courage that you need. I don't know, and maybe I'm totally wrong about all of this, but that's my gain from it, from this second viewing. I think this movie has a lot more in common with Mulholland Drive
Mhm.
than I
Yep.
realized at first.
Well, again, this is
Yep.
why I said at the time, why was Mulholland Drive getting this praise, but Lost Highway was getting dragged through the mud when they have, and they're not the same movie. I'm not trying to say that they are, but
No.
thematically, there are some similarities. I mean, so I don't know.
Hmm.
I just remember this was Savage and Mulholland Drive was praise, and I'm not going to speculate on which one is better. I mean, people have their favorites. So I think Mulholland Drive is a lot of people's favorites out of the Lynch canon, but I don't know. I never quite understood why this one got the hate, or maybe audiences weren't ready for this type of movie yet.
Maybe, yeah, I
Certain
I think
events
maybe that's
hadn't
it.
happened on the world stage yet, so yeah,
Yeah.
maybe that's what it was.
I've got my theories, and I'll get to them
Mhm.
It's a
when I
demon, a
when I
dancing
know.
demon. Now
Yeah,
something isn't
something like
right.
that.
Yeah.
Mhm. Nate says she's just not that into him. No. Enigma says, I think Lynch gave us an amazing gift on considering self-reflection and leaving it open for interpretation, so we could ask ourselves. Nate says, I believe the mystery man is his conscience. Bill Pullman is the man that he is, the younger man who he wants to be, and the mystery man shows him who he really is. Kopla to our resident Klingon, Mark Malnikoff. Thank you for joining us, sir. Bone says the mystery man is my spirit animal. Uh, Oddhan says, I think the mystery man and the cowboy from Mulholland Drive are neighbors in the same reality.
Yeah,
They
I
do.
like that.
I do believe now that they serve the same purpose
Or at least a
in
similar
both
one.
films, or at least a similar one. Yeah. Enigma says, also Kevin Costner's movie Mr. Brooks, his imaginary man who keeps his sanity but also offers the temptation.
I
Yeah,
haven't seen that in ages.
I still need to see it. I mean, I know who the quote unquote imaginary character in his head is. I know who that is, but I haven't seen the movie in its entirety. I need to do that.
Uh,
Okay. And Connie Cleary has joined us.
Welcome,
Good to see
Connie.
you. Bird Woman of YouTube.
Yep.
All right. So, uh, Boomer, do you have anything further to add?
No, I mean I don't know if Troy wants to go next or go tonight, but I'd be interested to hear his thoughts. Unless it's he wants to
Yeah,
stay
I'm
around.
I'm waiting patiently because interestingly, I'm realizing that as you guys are talking through your theories, they are. I'm going to reassure you about your theories,
Okay.
and I'm going to bring you the receipts to demonstrate why I agree with your theories.
Okay.
All
Do you want
right.
to go?
Well,
All right.
um, if Boomer doesn't have anything further,
I think
Troy.
I'm done. Let's hear Troy. Troy's before we run out of time. Yeah, let's get to Troy.
So and I'm glad you asked him that because I want to jump off from something that Boomer brought up. He brought up that in that interview with Arquette, she had pointed out that David Lynch was very interested in the OJ trial. So
Hmm.
let's outline the series of events, okay, in the real world, um, from David Lynch's point of view. So the OJ trial spanned 8 months, from January 24th to October 3rd of 1995. Lost Highway was released in 1997. This is 5 years after Fire Walk with Me. In 1999, he completed the made for TV treatment for Mulholland Drive, which was later re edited with additional scenes for the theatrical standalone film Mulholland Drive, which released in 2001. And then Inland Empire would premiere at the Venice Film Festival on September 6th, 2006. See where I'm going with this? I'm tying all of these things together.
Hmm.
So this is a quote from David Lynch from an interview with I hope I pronounced this correctly, Dieter Arak uh, in Los Angeles, July 12th of 2005. This was before Inland Empire was released, but after all of those other events. There was a thing we discussed after the fact, a name of a certain illness, psychogenic fugue, which has a beautiful, beautiful feel to it. Psychogenic fugue is a sort of what the film is. It comes up in people with some sort of illness, or an illness is, like a loss or great loss of balance. So sometimes we do things that throw the balance off so much that we're tossed into something like a psychogenic fugue. And that's, Fred Madison. That's what David Lynch himself said about this. Now, he did another interview in 2006, January of 2006, with Stuart Maybe. Mobby? Maybe. Um, and again, these are things you can look up. I'm sure they're out there on the interwebs and whatnot. I found them out there. So Stuart Maybe says, Lost Highway, probably considered the darkest, most incomprehensible member element of your work. Do you see it as dark and incomprehensive? David Lynch says, I see it is. There's this thing. I was looking back. I see it as starting with the O.J. Simpson trial that I was kind of obsessed with. And it struck me how someone could do murders and then go on living with themselves. So that's sort of that idea led me to, my first, visits with Barry and Barry Gifford. And we're talking and kind of talking about things, and it just something clicked, and we started working on this, and in working on it found out that there was this medical name for this thing, psychogenic fugue, where the mind tricks itself and you can and either take on another identity or you do what you have to do to hide those things from yourself. Does duality play a lot in your work? Well, yeah, duality, yeah. Yeah. That's all you have to say? Yeah. That was the portion of the interview that I wanted to quote. Now, psychogenic fugue, also known as dissociative fugue, is a rare psychological disorder characterized by sudden, unexpected travel away from home, accompanied by loss of memory and potentially the assumption of a new identity. It is classified as a dissociative disorder, specifically a subtype of dissociative amnesia. Um, and of course, a couple of you have brought up the quote. Ed says, "Do you own a video camera?" Renee, no. Fred hates them. Fred says, "I like to remember things my own way." What do you mean by that? How I remember them, not necessarily the way they happened. I think that you guys are keying into something very, very key. I think this is the most lucid, shall we say, clue that David Lynch gives you. It's his statement of what's going on. I also wanted to point out, and again, I'm not sure who it was in the chat who said it. It might have been Nate, who speculated that Fred is the one personality, and what's the kid's name? Right, is the other identity, and uh, that the mystery man is like a third personality who is revealing the truth to him. Go back to that quote. The quote is about why he doesn't like video cameras. And look at deleted scenes icon right now. Why doesn't he like video cameras? He doesn't like video cameras because they don't lie. They are witnesses to what actually happened. Now, of course, this was back in the early aughts. This was well before we had, the ability to literally create fake images and videos and voices of people, using generative AI. So I think from David Lynch's point of view, at the time, a video camera represented a reliable witness. Whereas this entire movie, of course, is being told from Fred's point of view. And he is an unreliable witness. He has
Yeah.
admitted as much that he is an unreliable witness. So I do think that everything you guys have said about the duality and so forth, that's absolutely spot on. And using dream logic, I don't think it's a dream literally, but to apply dream logic to it is 100% spot on, because a dissociative fugue state would be comparable to a waking dream. They're going to work the same way in your subconscious and unconscious, right?
Hmm.
Um, Also, I think there's a number. Okay, so just like Mulholland Drive, you were given 10 clues, right, by David Lynch. You have to parse out what those clues are on your own for this. And a couple of clues, I just pointed out the one with the video camera, right? The other is when you see pictures and who is seeing those pictures and when they change. We see a picture of Renee and Alice together. And then later on, one of them is missing, right?
Yes.
Again, it's because who is looking at that picture, right? An unreliable witness who is projecting something that isn't there, right? Yeah, I don't think Renee and Alice are actually two different people, a twin sister or anything like that. Again, she is as much a fiction as, all the other people when Fred goes into his fugue state. This is why I wanted draw the correlation as Deleted was doing back to Mulholland Drive. She is doing literally the same thing. She is having the same kind of, as Lynch called it, a psychogenic fugue, right? He's actually, before I get back to Mulholland Drive, I want to address, and I'm not sure if it was Nate or if it was someone else who pointed out that their belief was, or actually, a couple people had different theories about where Fred is at the end. Is he driving away? Has he escaped? Is he still in prison? Is it really a prison, or is it a mental institution, or is he on death row? And again, we can't be 100% certain because, again, we are seeing it from Fred's point of view. He could be projecting and not seeing things exactly the way they are. But how interesting would it be if he is, in fact, in prison on death row, making this movie a kind of a version of an occurrence at Owl Creek Bridge? Which, if we're honest, that is exactly what Mulholland Drive is.
Yeah.
Right? So I think that it all starts with David Lynch looks at the OJ trial, makes certain assumptions about the OJ trial. I don't think he, for as obsessed as he said he was, I don't think he looked at the details of the evidence all that clearly. He has come to a conclusion that I don't think are substantiated by the evidence. But be that as it may, it leads him to the abstract question of how does somebody kill somebody else, his wife in this case, and live with it, and maybe lie to himself and actually believe that he did not do the thing that, if you're objective, the reality says that they did do. So he explores this in Mulholland Drive, but Mulholland Drive was originally set up to be a pilot for a series that didn't get picked up. And then he reworked it into a movie. He gives all these clues, a lot of details there, a lot of complicated stuff. And even with all the clues, it's very easy to lose that narrative in the telling. He decides to explore the same themes again in Lost Highway, but I think he does it in a much more straightforward kind of way. It's not as convoluted, in my opinion, as Mulholland Drive was. When you really think about it. The fact that you guys all, including the chat and everybody, had very similar thoughts on what was going on, kind of says he did a little bit better job of getting his idea across. But now that brings us to the final point that I wanted to make, and that was what you were talking about, Boomer. Why is everybody lauding Mulholland Drive and vilifying, hating on Lost Highway?
Yes, that's my big question.
And I think there's a very simple answer for that. It has nothing to do with the quality of either film. I love both films. We did a deep dive on Mulholland Drive where I went into crazy amounts of detail about all of that, right? We've just done basically the same thing here, but I don't feel I have to go as far into detail because I think it's more straightforward. I think it really just comes down to hot lesbian sex. Really, honestly, I think that's why. I think that's exactly why people, say this one is great, that one isn't. Love the nudity. Yeah, there's some nudity here, but it's not, as hot. So Honestly, I really do believe that's why a lot of people say that about Mulholland Drive.
Or maybe because the woman was the main character?
Yeah, because you're focused on the girls instead of a guy. So yeah, you could be more positively disposed to that, and that totally falls into exactly what I'm getting at there. So yeah, nothing too deep. It's really just that basic, which is a little bit meta when you consider these people coming together at a party to watch you know questionable. No, it's not even
Yeah.
questionable.
It's
Absolutely
illegal.
terrible piece of what they consider entertainment.
Mr.
I
A liked
think
it.
I
Because
think
it's mm-hmm,
I think what it is, to go back to your point,
mm-hmm.
is I think the characters in Mulholland Drive, in particular Naomi Watts, I think she's more likable. You care about what happens to her, and up to a point, you care about what happens to Laura Herring as well. The characters in Lost Highway,
Yeah.
these are not likable people. You see what they are wrapped up in.
uh, I agree with
You
you.
know,
I would put a little more nuance on it though than that. I would
yeah,
say look at how the narrative unfolds. You start out
mhm,
putting aside the what I consider to be the bookends of Mulholland Drive. Putting that aside, the main first narrative is absolutely the fugue state, the dream, the idealized version, right? So you see her in her best light, you see her girlfriend in her best light. They're the heroes you're rooting for, right? Um, because let's be honest, when you start seeing the real world creep in after the Club Silencio part, right? You kind of realize, oh, these are all terrible people.
yeah.
They were
I mean,
all terrible people. It's kind of
that's
reversed
why.
here.
Yeah,
I was just going to say, in Lost Highway, it's kind of reversed. First, you're right. The idealized one, the people still aren't that great, right? And it is the smaller part that you see, right? Whereas you spend more time with the, oh my God, these people are horrible narrative.
hmm
Ironically, you probably have a better impression of what the real story is from Lost Highway when you look back on it and filter it through, the the things that we talked about in the analysis than you do with Mulholland Drive, where you see all of this dream and the real narrative is a very small part of the story. So anyway, that's just my take on
Question.
it. Mm-hmm.
Is the name Pete a reference to Peter Pan? And is the name Alice a reference to Alice from Alice in Wonderland?
God, I never even thought about that.
I'm just throwing that out there.
um
I think that's possible. Because if Lynch didn't come up with that, certainly Barry Gifford did, just based on what I know of his work. So yeah, I can see that being a possibility. Yeah.
that's actually a great point. This is very much like we talked about with Twin Peaks. You have to get to what part of it is David Lynch's and what part of it is Mark Frost's. You're kind of doing the same thing here. What part of it is Lynch and what part of it is Barry? So yeah. But I have a hard time with. I don't think either one is on the nose enough for me to be willing to make that jump. The Pete one makes sense, right? Because Pete is younger, more idealized, um, and he would be projecting himself back that way, right? To a younger time, to a younger person, right? I don't see Alice, because Alice is not a protagonist. She is an NPC. She's the victim. She's, you know,
The femme
she's not the
fatale.
one going. She's not the one going on a voyage, right, to Wonderland. If anything, Fred is.
Or you could always say, because she's in the line of work that she's in the other Wonderland. At John
Oh,
Holmes
okay.
Wonderland.
Oh,
Yeah,
I saw that movie.
yeah. Okay, I see where you're going with that. Yeah. That's a whole different. She is, yeah. Her life up to her death, kind of was venturing into a secret world that most people didn't know about. So yes, that could very well be. Excellent point. Excellent point.
And I'll throw in another esoteric reference. And maybe someone in the chat will get it, and maybe they won't. Lost Highway is the movie Dark Crime should have been. If you've ever seen that movie, if anybody's familiar with that, with Jim Carrey.
What's it called again? Dark
Crimes. And I know it's probably playing to like 3 people on a plane somewhere. But
Yeah,
I
I don't
kind
think I
of
know it.
looking back on that film, which is very much this kind of girl with a dragon tattoo kind of vibe to it. At least it's striving for that, and doesn't quite get there. But I'm looking back, and it's not that great a movie. Jim Carrey's been great in it, but
Sure.
everybody around him is not good. I'll tell you about it later. But I'm seeing similarities between certain parts of that film and Lost Highway, especially when it comes to Alice. And let's say that Alice is not an NPC, but an actual character. I'm kind of seeing similarities between the two, and I'm wondering if whoever wrote Dark Crimes maybe had this movie on a loop or not. I'm just saying. Dark Crimes is the movie where Jim Carrey plays a police detective in Europe. Yeah, he's
Oh, I
like
saw that. Oh
Sweden
boy.
or Denmark or something, and
I
he's
think it was
good. The
Poland.
movie Poland, yeah,
Yes.
he's good. The movie is terrible,
It's
but
awful.
I get what it was going for. It's just that they just somebody along the way said this movie must be 85 minutes long, so you got to cut it down. you know,
Maybe it had been
um,
longer. It might have been better. I don't know. I remember when I watched it, I'm like, what country is this? It drove me nuts. And I'm like, then I think I finally realized, oh, Poland. That's where it is. Because I'm like,
yeah.
it's Europe, but where in Europe? It doesn't feel like, is it Eastern Europe? And I kept trying to, in that Poland. That's what I finally figured out. I think I read that later on too. Yes. Oh, that was a messed up movie.
It was.
Sounds like I'm gonna have to check this thing out.
No, your own
No,
risk, dude.
No.
we're talking Ouija shark here. I'm gonna
I'm
tell you
talking.
about it. It's so bad though. I'm telling you not to see the thing.
Tell you what, watch Resident Evil Future with the snowman. Okay, there you go.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe I'll watch it with Bad Ronald.
Well, no, I bring up the snowman because the snowman is another one of these European. Like I'm interested in seeing movies that take place in these European countries you don't typically see in movies. Like the snowman was another one because I know things happen in these countries
Well,
and we get narratives in them. But then the movie comes out and it's no, it's no.
well,
It's no. It's just no.
the thing between, and we're going off on a tangent here, I know.
Yes.
The difference between, my fault. The difference between the snowman and Dark Crimes is that they didn't film the entire script for the snowman, so there are
So it's not a
parts that
question of
are
them cutting scenes out for a
missing.
length. They just didn't shoot the scenes.
And Dark Crimes just edits everything down within an inch of its life, and you just hope that Jim Carrey will get you to the other side of this thing. And anyway, um, Old Hunt says that even as a viral, handsome, and I think it means viral. It's viral, handsome, and youthful. Pete still gets C blocked with Renee's "You'll Never Have Me." Yeah. Um, and this is interesting from Mark Melnikoff. Deleted scenes. Thought of you today as I used my new weed whacker for the first time.
Oh gosh.
Okay.
I'd like to know what triggered you thinking of deleted scenes when using your weed whacker.
Okay. Hello to Stephen McEwen. Welcome to the show. Hello, Dash Attack. Long time no see. Joining us from Twitter. Netter's guest this Thursday for Thursday Things. Writer Albert Lanier. Good to see you, sir. Says Mulholland Drive is a great film. One of the best of the decade it came out. Agreed. I just wish everybody who's saying that now had said that at the time. So yeah, I analyzed Mulholland Drive on a podcast a few years ago during its anniversary. Well, okay.
Nice.
I have to look that up. Hello to the Tired Midnight blogger, the voice of Northern Oklahoma, Curtis Selby has joined us. Albert says that Lost Highway came out in the 90s and is not as strong a film as Mulholland Drive. I have more of an appreciation for this now, having revisited it. And I liked it at the time. I just have more insight into it now. And hello to Tree Rock Creations, who's listening in. Oh, okay. Yeah. He was like joking about. Yeah, I apologized for that. I made an off-color joke on on another stream, and he's talking about that. Okay, I get it.
You made an off-color joke, not you. Never.
Yeah. Okay, moving on. I'm sorry. I derailed this. Troy, please go ahead.
No, I was done. I mean, that was basically all I had to say about it.
That was it?
Yeah, it wasn't that enough?
Well, the thing is, I still don't know what's going on.
That's what I said from the very beginning.
When
what the heck did I watch?
When his head is splitting open, is there the Gerber baby inside underneath all that, like poking its head out? That's what I'm asking. I'm just saying.
That's kind of gross, but it would fall in line with it would absolutely fall in line with Eraserhead, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it is that the beginning of a new personality.
Maybe like another one's emerging.
Yeah. Actually, I just saw it as the two personalities clashing. Like I said, the id and the ego.
And hello to another new name to the chat, Trailer Manson DJs. Greetings, joining us from Twitter.
You notice how when you notice how whenever the mystery man is even apparently happy or smiling, he's really not in this movie. There's a lot of tension behind all that.
But I'm thinking about him now, and I'm like, and one of the things that leads me in the direction to think that he could just be another personality of Fred. Aside from Fred, and later on Dick Laurent, does anybody actually speak to him directly? I don't think so.
Nope.
Oh,
question: Are he and Renee ever on screen at the same time?
No, I don't think so.
No.
I remember he sees this face on Renee. That's why people are probably linking the two of them together a lot. So that's why I wasn't
Yeah,
disavowing that.
that's true too.
I
Yeah,
don't know. It's just something to think about. I don't know. Like
it
I said, I'm
is.
just throwing anything that hits the wall and sees if it sticks. I'm waiting for Disney to remake this movie someday, huh?
Oh God,
No, starring
Uh,
I don't
Pedro
want to see
Pascal and
Disney.
Zendaya.
yeah, yeah. There you
Yeah,
go.
exactly,
I would
exactly
still go
right.
see that. I'd be curious. I'm sorry. In like the same plot, but Pedro Pascal. uh, I have to say though, I don't know though. This how did this movie make you feel versus Mulholland Drive though? I think it's a different mood. I'll say that. Don't
Oh
you?
yeah, yeah.
Way different mood. Uh, in fact,
Similar themes but different mood. You're right.
I would argue a lot of Lynch's stuff gives off a different mood each time you see it though. So like, what it, what am I thinking of? What came before this? We had Twin Peaks, obviously. Like I
Right.
like I say, like does this take place in the Twin Peaks universe, quote unquote? I mean, I don't
I
know.
think it. I think it does.
And the
Honestly.
thing is, we had a noir story, a proper noir story on Twin Peaks when that little escapade that you kind of didn't like as much in season 2 when he goes off and
Oh
works
yeah,
for that lady. Yeah,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
sort of a
yeah.
similar thing to this.
Well, I kind of reversed myself on that
Yeah,
originally
yeah. No,
because
you like it. You appreciate it now. Yeah, but I'm just
I did have issue with it at the time. I see it but when I saw it later on with David Lynch having said Mulholland Drive was always meant to be Twin Peaks universe, but that
Yeah,
was mainly because my also finding out later that that was originally supposed to be an Audrey spin-off series.
right.
uh,
That made me appreciate season 2 a lot more and why it seemed to be that's James entering from Twin Peaks into the world of Mulholland Drive. That's how I see that now.
I'll give you another one.
Okay.
Given that Mulholland Drive was meant to be a vehicle for Audrey, right?
Hmm.
Uh, Keep that in mind, and then think about the fact that we find out some things about Audrey in season 3. I think this is that was David Lynch pointing to Audrey being in her own psychogenic fugue,
So,
just like the main character in Mulholland Drive. I'm not suggesting that Audrey's story actually follows and parallels directly the story of Mulholland Drive. I'm just saying that her, you know, dissociating with
well,
where she was and everything was like that.
there is the question of who is the dreamer, and that's asked.
See,
If Audrey's the dreamer, is she dreaming Mulholland Drive?
I think that we also have to let Mulholland Drive and Lost Highway stand on their own as well. So, if that's the case, then Selwyn is the dreamer of Mulholland Drive, and uh, what's his name?
Well,
Fred. Fred is the dreamer of Lost Highway.
yeah, but
Uh,
I'm thinking, and who knows what was going on in his mind with it at that time.
right.
My suggestion is had Mulholland Drive gone to series and it had played through with
Uh,
Audrey,
yeah.
would that have been the ending? That she was somehow, if not dreaming the whole
Traumatized by
thing,
things that,
certainly, yeah.
yeah. It definitely, yeah, I definitely think it would be something along those lines. Um, I I also go back to, who was the dreamer of Twin Peaks. The question comes up in season 3. And if if I am suggesting that Lost Highway is more straightforward, so more easily explained, in my opinion. Mulholland Drive is much more complicated, so I had a lot more details and a lot more notes. Twin Peaks, spanning 3 seasons, a bunch of books, a movie, and all this kind of stuff. There's a whole lot more going on there. So it's much harder to get to. It's not as simple as Fred versus Pete. You know, it's Diane, Kathy, or whatever. It's what if the dreamer of Twin Peaks is actually multiple characters within the narrative of Twin Peaks. So what if the dreamer, and it does seem to be implied that, so how does that scene go? What's her name says to Cole, who he is describing his dream. He's sitting across from him, and she says to him, "But who is the dreamer?" And then what does he do? He turns around and looks into the camera. So is he suggesting that we are the dreamers? I think after the story is told and we have consumed Twin Peaks, we do become the dreamers, because we start running with our theories, sharing them over 30 years, 40 years, and it kind of takes on a life of its own in our own collective unconscious. However, she's speaking to him. So is he the dreamer? And if he is the dreamer, then and who do I mean? Do I mean Agent Cole, or do I mean David Lynch himself? Because in a literal sense, David Lynch is the dreamer who came up with Twin Peaks, right?
Yeah.
And shaped it. He inserts himself as Agent Cole in a very literal sense. But you could also argue he inserts himself as Agent Cooper as well. So all of those are elements of the dreamer. I don't think we're going to get, much farther on that tonight. We've talked about it before, and I'm not sure we're going to make any farther headway on that. We should probably bring it back to Lost Highway, but there you go.
And
Is this, visually speaking, his darkest movie? It's hard to say because he's had a lot of dark in his movies, but I don't know. I feel like this is like a blanket on this whole film.
Well, I don't know.
I don't know. I thought Mulholland Drive was kind of dark.
Yeah, when you consider that she's ending herself, and that's the whole story.
No, I'm
talking
about visual aesthetics. Visual aesthetics.
No, if you go by visual aesthetics, I'd say Eraserhead.
Yeah, couldn't see anything in that.
That's true. I saw Chicken Baby, or whatever the heck that was.
Yes, exactly.
Kenny Rogers Roaster's child. Yes, I just don't know.
Enigma Severus says, "Stop making sense, Troy. We won't have any mysteries left."
Oh, that was. I'm sorry. Can I bring up? I know I'm getting off track here. I don't care. Anyway, what I consider to be the final episode of the X-Files was not the final episode of the X-Files. It was the Lost Art of Forehead Sweat. And there's a made-up scenario where an alien comes down to Earth and gives Mulder, "Here you go. Here's the book. It explains everything." And he's looking at it, explains all the cryptid mystery, all the mysteries, and he's like, "Oh no, there's no mystery anymore." And Mulder goes nuts and cries, and because the book just explains all the mysterious stuff that you've seen on the show all these years, and he snaps. It's obviously a fanciful scenario. It's probably not canon on the show. Do you understand? It was like
yeah, that's kind of funny.
It was a funny scene. It was just a funny scene because that's how it should end. That's the proper ending for the X-Files.
I like that.
And that's what you're doing here, man. You're explaining it all to us, man. What if the mystery man's an alien? Huh?
Okay,
Extraterrestrial?
so I'll go back and I'll add one little addendum to my notes. Or I could be wrong. There you go.
Troy's the dreamer.
Exactly. You guys are all NPCs in my adventure, for crying out
But
loud.
what? Don't even say that, man.
Does that freak you out? Like,
I don't
as
like
soon as we
thinking that
close
way,
out
man.
StreamYard, you cease to exist or something?
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. Like it's just I just think I have a day job. As soon as I leave StreamYard, I go back into the ether somewhere. I don't
Enigma.
like it, man.
Enigma says the only time is Fred asks Andy, "Who's the guy in black?" And Andy says, "A friend of Dick Laurent's," and that's when he says, "Dick Laurent is dead." Yeah.
Oh.
Okay.
Well, that goes back to the theory when I first saw him. I thought he was death, but anyway, never mind.
So Andy does see the mystery man, and he's a friend of Dick Laurent's. However, we could go back and maybe Andy was looking at someone else and not the mystery.
True.
Yeah.
Also, Andy ends up dead too.
Yeah. And Trailer Mansion says a lot of replay value in this Lynch film. I agree.
Yep.
Nate says Flappy is still mad at David Lynch because he wouldn't even let him audition for the part of the mystery man. It still sticks in his beak.
I like me and my monkey says Troy is correct.
Oh, of course.
Mark Malnikoff, what do you think of that? What do you think of me and my monkey saying Troy is correct? It's another way of saying Troy is right.
Uh-huh.
And good to see you, Monkey. It's been a while. All right. Well,
It gives you a lot to think about.
it does. It does.
Plus,
Which
where's
is also why I like to go to Blake 7 after this, because it's pretty straightforward. You can just watch it, enjoy it. There's not much thinking involved.
Well,
It has to be the hero.
True. That's true.
Yeah. Blake 7 is easy. They go to a planet, they get caught, they get everybody they run into killed,
Yes,
they fly
exactly.
off. The end. You know?
Pretty much. It does oftentimes get a little formulaic. Every now and again you'll get a big drama. And I haven't talked about this. I don't want to spoil anything, but there's a huge a change up at the end. Don't jump ahead. You'll ruin it.
Okay.
I'm still waiting for my favorite episode.
That's next season. We've only got 3 episodes left this season, and then we get real close to yours.
Yeah, that's what you said last time.
Mark,
and then there's
Troy is right.
Between my favorite episode.
Yeah, he's actually being quite literal when he says Troy was right. Is immortalized on a billboard on his model railroad. He's got this huge model railroad setup that he's done. It's actually a reproduction of an area I actually know in the Chicagoland area, and he's got a billboard up that said something like, I can't remember what the name of the company was, like Troy's meat packing or something like that, and it says and the slogan is Troy was right. Because and he'll do this to me all the time. I'll say something and I'll forget and I don't remember, and he'll send me a news article or something, said, see, you were right, and I'll look and I'll go, okay. He's like, yeah, you predicted this. I'm like, okay. I'm not psychic. I just, I pay attention to things, and you connect the dots, and you know where things are going to lead to. If you want to accurately predict the future, learn history.
It's important to learn history.
Yep.
Nate agrees with me. Yeah, the Liberator crew does seem to get a lot of people killed.
It does, yes,
Yeah.
including some of their own crew.
Yeah.
I think with the death of Gan, we and they were originally planning to kill off Jenna, and then decided not to because they got such a flack about Gan. So they threw in a line that said Jenna was still alive. They had planned to eventually bring Blake back, which, minor spoiler, they will bring Blake back later on. So they didn't kill him off. But yeah, they wanted to get across that people could die at any time.
Old Hans Film says Blake 7 classic. My first screen crush was Glennis Barber, but from Dempsey and Makepeace. I remember that show.
Oh my gosh!
It was a good
Yes,
show.
yes.
WGN back in the day.
Ooh.
Yeah, I remember that well. Yeah, my dad and I used
Yeah.
to watch that. Yeah, good show. Good show. I wish somebody would bring that back and air it again. And the guy who played the captain, he was fairly tough. I remember him getting like shot, stabbed, and blown up all in the same episode, and he survived. I was like, okay, just do a show with this guy. He's like James Bond, for Pete's sake. Anyway, yeah, good show. Good show. I remember that well. All right.
But yeah, we haven't gotten to the Sulin episodes yet. They'll be coming up pretty soon because we're almost done with season 3.
Did you see this? Geek Plug Nate says Flappy is still mad at David Lynch because he wouldn't even let him audition for the part of the Mystery Man. It still sticks in his beak.
Yes.
We did that, yeah.
Well, then they were trying to do a compromise where he would be like an Aladdin, like Iago to Jafar. We would just be on his shoulder, but then he kept hogging the camera and jumping in front of the guy's face, and Lynch said no. It's like no.
Yeah.
It's like,
all right.
I
think I said everything I got, unless anyone has any other questions. But I feel like we answered a lot more questions.
One last question.
Okay.
We keep seeing that building, that cabin blowing up in reverse, and then we don't actually see it blow up outward, do we?
No.
Right. Because I think it represents him constantly trying to rewrite, in his mind, trying to rewrite his memories.
Okay, that makes sense, actually. Okay.
So he's got to keep reversing and going back, yeah.
Okay.
Flappy said he wasn't trying to hog the camera, he was just jumping from all the cocaine.
Yes. That sounds about right.
Well, there was that going on, too.
Yeah. Well.
I think one time when the paramedic stopped by and says, "What drugs is he on?" and someone said, "What drugs isn't he on?" It's like,
yeah,
he experimented. Like he I don't want to get into it right now.
Well, he was one tough bird.
He was. I mean,
he saw a lot, man. I rag on Flappy, but man, we have not heard the half of what Flappy was into, man.
No,
right?
He lived quite a life, and
yeah, he would. He did live life to the fullest.
Indeed. All right. Well, I think that's going to wrap it up for tonight, and this show certainly did what I was hoping that it would, and that was that it would kind of clear some things up for me, and I think I'm on the way to better understanding this film now, kind of hearing everybody's theories and And once again, thank you to Enigma for kind of putting in his 2 cents. I think he's got a lot on the ball there.
Yep.
All right. Nate says that really happened to Ozzy Osbourne in real life when the paramedics arrived. That's what he was on. So it was. Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
Flappy is at the bottom of a mine shaft on Rural Penty. He should not have visited me there. It's not nice.
I don't know. Flappy said, "You cannot defeat me. You can only kill me." Okay,
True,
no,
true,
just.
I'm so glad, Odd
Yes,
Hunts.
thank you. Really do appreciate it.
But
I hope you were able to find everybody. Because YouTube likes to not only hide this program, but sometimes you hide us along with it. So I'm
True
glad that
enough.
you could be here.
But
tonight.
yeah, if you are
Sparkwood
interested,
rules.
stick
Thank you.
around, and you can watch Blake 7 with us in about 40 minutes.
Yep. I know I have it set for redirect, so if you just stick where you are.
Mine
Yep.
too.
Yeah.
I'm about to do that myself. Okay.
There you go. We're on season 3, episode 10, Ultra World. Sparkwood rules. Thank you, me and my monkey.
Yeah,
I just like that name.
I do too. Yeah, I kind of respond to it the same way that Culture Casino does. You can't do it without singing "Me and My Monkey." Hanging out here in the chat. The wife and kids are out of town for a couple of days, but I'm not alone because I'm hanging out with all you guys. I thought that was going to go a different way. The wife and kids are out of town, so I can do whatever I want.
I'm not as drunk as you think. Not as think as you drunk.
Think as you drunk.
Never mind. Yeah. You know what I mean. It's late.
I knew what you were getting.
So, gentlemen, what's up next for Twin Peaks season?
Yeah. What are we doing for next week? Inland Empire?
Oh, well, if you're willing to take that plunge, yeah. There are a couple of things that we're yet to do. I've only seen like about 10 minutes out of it myself, so I know what happens there. We'll probably have to,
break it up into two.
We'll have to break it up.
In fact, we might have to make it not only 2 nights to watch, but a third night for the analysis, like we've done with these other films.
Oh, it's another WTF film?
Oh, well, it's David Lynch. You kind of have to expect that. It's, but again, I do feel like, and I'm glad we did them in this order, that we did Mulholland Drive first, then Lost Highway, and then Inland Empire, because again, we are following similar themes, I think. I think Inland Empire is even more bizarre than any of the others, if for no other reason because of some of the filming techniques he uses, and I think it's even weirder in a lot of ways.
Yeah, there are some interesting visuals for sure. All right.
So part 1 of Inland Empire next week.
Part 1, Inland Empire. Yeah.
Okay.
Forward to it.
Inland Empire, Fractured Madness on Both Red's Head.
Yep.
It's a 3-hour film and all. So
we'll do an hour and a half, each week, and then we'll do what the hell did we just watch?
I'm excited.
There you go. So we've already got the next 3 weeks of Live from
Well,
Sparkwood in 21 figured out. So there we go there.
technically, if you think about it, 4. Because there is a movie we have not done.
What's that?
Straight Story.
There you go.
Oh, right. We were going to get the Straight Story, so we'll probably do that in 4 weeks. There we go. But
That's the weirdest one.
Yeah.
Okay.
And yeah, well, weird for David Lynch anyway. But, and then yeah, and so stay right where you're at. I understand, Odd Haunts. Thank you for hanging out with us. But you can't stay because very, very different time zone where you're at. But we will be going over to my channel in about 35 minutes for Blake 7.
Nate
And I've
says, I have
updated
a
my
question.
avatar for that.
I'm sorry, what was that deleted?
Oh, Nate has a question. What is Inland Empire? All right. Inland Empire is a movie that stars Laura Dern and Jeremy Irons. And she is an actress who gets a part in the film and finds out that there are some strange goings on the set, and that tie into the disappearance of the actress that was cast previous to her. And David Lynch described it as a story of a woman in trouble. So,
yeah,
we will see just exactly how much trouble is she in.
Yikes.
Yeah. I'm going to reckon quite a bit. So, we will see. All right. So
yeah, you generally don't want to be a woman in a David Lynch production. You just don't.
No.
It's not going to go well for you.
It's not going to go well for you if you're a guy either, honestly.
Yeah, it's probably true too. Yeah,
you're pretty much in the Twilight Zone, regardless.
Okay.
All right. So next week, the first part of Inland Empire. The next week after, part 2. In 3 weeks, the deep dive, and in 4 weeks, we're going to chill, and we're going to take it down a notch, and we're going to watch a Disney film directed by David Lynch about an old man on a tractor visiting his brother cross country. There we go. Yes. All right.
Oh, we're going to be watching H. Boomer.
Kinda
funny.
Kinda.
I made the joke that I should be I could be Richard Farnsworth on this yet.
Absolutely. I have to admit I haven't seen the movie yet myself, so it'll be a first time viewing. Yeah.
Cool. All right, so we'll go one time around the horn. Boomer, what do you have coming up?
This Friday I will be on Last Call with Troy Pacelli here. I think we're going to be discussing a certain superhero, perhaps, if I'm remembering.
Very likely. Yeah, very likely.
And then Sunday, Geeky Geezers, where we'll be trying to actually. I want to do some investigations to find out what's going on with the box office this summer. What are the winners and losers? Or is the loser the audience? I don't know. But anyway. And that's it.
Right. Netter.
Well, let's see. Well, after this, I'm going to be over on Blake 7, co-hosting with Troy. Then on Thursday, my special guest on Thursday things will be writer Albert Lanier. And we'll be talking about, excuse me, some of his newsletters and some other conventions and things that and film reviews he's been doing lately.
Yep.
And then Friday, I'll be co-hosting on Friday Night Last Call. Saturday, I'll be co-hosting on Wait, whose week is it? It's
Big
Big Al's.
Yeah.
For it's like
Last Starfighter.
Yeah, I was like, it was on the tip of my tongue. Like, what is it? Yeah, it'll be a slaughter. That's the spirit.
Yep.
That's
Protecting
it
the universe against Zora and the Codown Armada. Right on. Okay, Troy.
Basically, all the things they just said, with the inclusion of every day at noon Central, 1 o'clock Eastern. I have liquid lunch on my channel. I don't know what the topic's going to be from day to day, although I'll be talking booze on Friday for certain. So that's.
Did you say booze or boobs?
Maybe both. Maybe both. So yeah. I would encourage everybody, please subscribe to everybody who's on the panel tonight. If you can, subscribe to everybody that you interacted with in the chat. Let's make our group here the social part of social media.
Indeed. All right. That brings things on around to me. Thursday, I will be joining Outlaw Bill for Action Theater. Thursday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern. Kai July continues with Pacific Rim.
I like that, Kai July.
Later on that night, after Thursday Things, will be my program Coming Attractions, which is my chance to touch base with my subscribers, new and old. And thank you to all of the new people who have been subscribing in the last week. Chance to touch base with my channel members. Memberships are available. Affordable as well. So if you're interested, please take the time out because there is a member stream coming up this Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern. So catch me there. And let's see. Also, Action Theater Extra Dose. That's going to be at 3:30. We are going to be watching Godzilla 1998, the Roland Emmerich Godzilla in New York film. And yeah. I got some mixed feelings on that one too. I'll talk about them during the show. All right. And let's see. Sunday, Western Cinema Presents at 4 p.m. And we're going to be watching City Slickers 2. And like I said, the member stream at 7 p.m. So no unscripted this week. And of course, Geeky Geezers, 9 o'clock. And right after that, get yourself a beverage, nice midnight snack, and head on over to my channel for reserved seats, 12:05 a.m. Eastern, 11:05 Central. Guest to be determined. So everybody keep an eye on the DMs. You never know where I'm going to be. All right.
He's lurking.
Yes.
I will be lurking. I see. This actually is in fact me. Anyway.
All right.
That is live from Sparkwood and 21 for this week. I do want to thank everyone who is joining us on X. I can't see you, but I know that you're there. I want to thank everybody that joined us here in the live chat. Thank you for the super chats and all the member chats. Thank you very much. we had over 70 people watching at one point, and we still have more than
Cool.
60 who have stuck with us through the entire show. So thank you very much
Awesome.
to everyone. Please hit the like, share out the stream, um, say hello in the comments and all that good stuff. And we are simulcasting this broadcast. So please remember to go to everyone's channel and hit the like and say hello because it helps with the algorithm. And we want YouTube to like us. So yeah, don't hide our channels. We do a good show here. We like our show. Troy made me do it. I'm sorry.
Yes, usually true.
I have a confession to make. I'm sorry. It was all his idea. I blame him. This man, he is the guilty party. Something less called dark side. He's evil.
Yes.
No, I mean, we this show originated because Troy did an episode of his Friday Night Last Call program, which he called the Lime Green Box. This is when this is a box set of David Lynch films, and I was on that night as the quote unquote the subject matter expert, and we got into a conversation about Twin Peaks, and basically decided on the show to do like basically what was meant to be a watch party of the original series, and then it kind of grew and became something else. And you're seeing the kind of the aftermath of that. And I'm having a lot of fun doing this show, and it's gained in popularity. More and more people joining up in the chat each week, and I'm really glad to see that. And I'm glad not only to be here and to discuss theories with the super fans, as I call them,
Mhm.
but also with you in the chat. And this show has made it as long as it has, thanks to you and for your ongoing support of the show. And I really do appreciate it. And we're going to be back at least for 4 more episodes. Where we go from there, well, we'll see. And Netter, save me, please, Dina. Take us out with your closer.
Well, what Deleted was trying so
Eloquently.
eloquently to say is that we can talk amongst ourselves, and that's all well good and fun. But it's so much more fun when you guys are joining us in the chat and you're dropping the comments, questions, trivia, being goofy, whatever it may be. And it doesn't feel like we're separated by miles and continents. It feels like we're all hanging out in the same room. We're passing the popcorn and having a great time. And you guys aren't just our friends. You're our family. We love you and we appreciate you so very much. So thank you for being here. Thank you for encouraging all of us. And remember to stay right here so you can be automatically redirected to Blake 7. And until next time, good night and God bless.
And once again, I would like to thank everyone for being here. Remind you all to please hit the like, share out the stream, say hello in the chat. And I also do want to remind everyone this was all Boomer's fault.
Lost Highway. Classic.
Yes, indeed. Now I'm really glad Boomer's been talking about this movie almost ever since we started doing the show. So I've really, honestly, I have really been looking forward to doing this episode for quite some time, and kind of picking Boomer's brain about what he thinks of the film. And yeah, here we are. I hope that everybody enjoyed this show just as much as I did. So from HQ, the corner of Sparkwood and 21, and all points north, south, east, west, beyond, and beyond. Good night. Take care. Stay strong. Be safe and healthy. Don't take an old video camera and film yourself and send yourself the tapes. It's just creepy. Don't do that. Because this is how we win.